Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, coming to you live from River Road Studio in Eugene, Oregon. Today's show is going to be brought to you by a bunch of people, but we're going to talk about it in a little different way, not a bunch of ads. So, Sue, you're a really busy person. What do you do when you're not recording Real Herbalism Radio?
Well, thank you for asking, Patrick. First of all, I do volunteer work at Occupy Medical, and we have 2 clinics a week, and they're both free, and they're integrated health clinics. So it's 2 free herbal clinics with doctors and nurses and herbalists, and that's at occupy-medical.com if anyone wants to find out about it. And I also am an herbal consultant, and I like to focus on chronic illnesses and people that already have medication to help them with that, because that's kind of my MO.
Great. So how can people help you support Occupy Medical?
You can go to our website, and we are a 501c3 organization. And if you go onto our website, you'll see some of the protocols and stuff that we do as far as herbs are concerned. Also, we use many of the formulas that you find on the Practical Herbalist site. Okay. So thepracticalherbalist.com. And you can just send in a donation, and we will give you a tax fund for that.
So it's a 503c.
Yeah, 501c3. Yep. Sure.
Cool.
Is.
And then the other thing you do is the consulting, and that was an email for that or contact you for that.
That's Sierra Lupe Herbal Consulting at gmail.com. Yes. I was going to say org. I'm like, no, that's the other one. Yeah.
Say that again.
Sierra Lupe Herbal Consulting at gmail.com.
All right. Okay, Candace, so when you're not recording and making herbal tinctures and doing all the herby stuff and battling a teenager, what do you do outside of the Practical Herbalist?
I work with clients as an herbalist through Get Healthy Now. And I do work with families that are looking to get healthy but don't want to do like herbalism. They're interested in things more nutritional foods and that sort of thing. And I use a company called Juice Plus, so I'm a rep for that. And then I am also involved with Hunter Creation. I do a lot of the running of the business and bookkeeping and that sort of thing. And I'm beginning to work more and more with doing some of the website and print design work with Hunter Creation.
All right.
And you can find me at what?
No. When I was doing my pen thing there was like, now you ask me what I do when I'm not at.
I was waiting to say, and this is how you get a hold of me.
Patrick, what do you do during your week?
Wait. How do we get a hold of Candace?
How do we get a hold of Candace? I get a hold of her like this. I reach out and I grab her arm.
You can find me at gethealthynowwithcandace.com.
Okay. So when I'm not recording.
Yeah, I was going to say the other half, my better half at Hunter Creation, who really knows the business, is Patrick. So let's hear about that.
So when I'm not recording, what I do is graphic design and website design. So I can help people and companies get their marketing materials and their marketing materials together in a cohesive whole, from their branding, from their logo to their website to their printed materials. So everything looks like it should be coming from one source. A lot of times companies make the mistake. They'll go to one vendor for one thing and another vendor for another thing, but then they never integrate across. So you sometimes see a mixed message. You don't want that. So I try to make sure that that's cohesive. And the other thing I do with my troubling teenager is another business called Ace High Heat Graphics, in that we make custom apparel for companies and businesses. We're more B2B than we are person to person.
B2B means business to business.
Well, if you're in it, you would know that's B2B, and that's what we do. We help companies and organizations get their name and their fundraising out. T-shirts are a great way to do that. That's our most common product. We've also have brought in hats, so we can do caps now. So,
nice. And aprons.
Yes, and aprons.
And tote bags,
which
are actually really quite convenient when you're mushrooming.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Right. There
Custom
you go.
tote bag for mushrooming. I like that.
Yep.
So that's what I do when I'm not doing this. The other thing that I wanted to say is that the one thing that does help us keep the lights on, the doors open, and us doing this above and beyond everything else that we do is the Herbal Nerd Society.
That's right.
Yes.
And, in the last week, I think we had 10 new members.
Oh, yay.
Nice.
Well, thank you, new members.
Right. So I think that's awesome. And it's always humbling when people are ready to put down their cash and say, hey, we like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you want to become a member of the Herbal Nerd Society and get access to all the old podcasts, special articles that Candace and Sue write, special interviews that only the Herbal Nerd Society members get, like the one with Chilton last week about mushrooms and cancer.
And myths. Yeah.
That was a really good one.
Yep.
I think that's why we got a bunch of members, because that was a good one.
That was a good.
Then just go to thepracticalherbalist.com, and then there's a menu item at the top that says join, and click there. And then for $5 a month or $50 for the year, you can become a member of the Herbal Nerd Society and get all that stuff, plus an ad-free environment.
Nice.
And I do have a question for you. If someone's interested in the Herbal Nerd Society, but they're not quite ready to join, how do they get on the mailing list for the Practical Herbalist so they can at least keep up with and see what's happening?
Well, right now there's a pop-up. Well, there's two ways. There's a pop-up that'll appear on the website if you visit the website. And after about 6-7 seconds, a pop-up will appear. Now, if you've decided that you didn't like that pop-up and you X'd it out, at the bottom of every page is a sign-up form.
Nice.
So
nice.
You can decide.
So, yeah, it's a great way to get if you're not sure about the Herbal Nerd Society, it's a great way to just get an idea of what's going on. And you'll start to see some of the articles that are also coming out for the Herbal Nerds. So,
you'll see the new articles there. You also see or get a note on the newest podcast that's being published. It's a great way to stay in contact with us without necessarily being a member of the Herbal Nerd Society.
Yep. So. And then when you're ready and you say, oh my God, there has been an awful lot of really cool stuff going to them, you'll be ready. You'll know. You jump right in.
All right. So we had I was going to say a once in 100-year snowstorm.
But
I got to tell you, in the 10 or 13 years we've been here now, we have had multiple 5+ inches of snow. And I know that's not a lot to a lot of people that listen to this, but for our area,
it's a lot.
It shuts
I swear,
the city down.
I believe there's only one snowplow for the entire county.
There probably is.
But there probably is. And it wasn't in Springfield.
And what they do is they shovel all of the snow in front of my driveway.
Right? I heard about that. That was hilarious.
That was.
I was actually glad that we had the people with the tire chains clear our entire road just by driving on it.
Yeah.
And then the sun come down, and it was actually okay. It just took a few days.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we had 10 inches in a night.
Yeah.
And I live closer to the center of town, and that was a lot. We were not prepared for that.
No.
Oftentimes we will have snow around us because it's at higher elevation, but that was crazy. I didn't think, it was funny because a few weeks ago there was this big hoo-ha about how much snow we were going to get.
Yeah.
And we got none.
Yep.
Right.
And then this thing just snuck up on everybody. It was supposed to be
a little light dusting, and then there was.
Yeah, I was driving back from the coast, and it was all rain. I got into Eugene, it was rain. And then I saw the sign on the freeway that said winter driving conditions ahead. I'm like, what?
Right.
And I kid you not, I crossed I-5, and it started to snow hard.
Yeah.
And I got home, and there was snow on the ground already. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then later on in the week, we got another 3 to 5 inches.
Yeah.
Which, okay, twice in 1 week?
Right.
So you've lived here 20 plus years. How many times has that happened?
Yeah, not at all.
So in the last...
Maybe like a sprinkling through the week. Continuous, but not like...
But a whole week of snow
a big
days.
dump. Yeah. And then let's just make it freeze for a while. And then they'll do another dump and then freeze it up again.
So what we've noticed is that the climate is a change in here.
Yes.
We're becoming very Midwestern, and that's what we left. So we might be leaving.
Disappointing. It is disappointing.
So with that, though...
You leave, you're bringing me. You realize that.
Yeah.
With that, we had plans last week to go on a walk in the woods. Early... Just wait. I'm not done.
Yep.
So I'm still part of the intro.
Yep. It's cool.
Good.
We're good.
Candace is saying, hey, we got to do the intro. I got it. I'm on it. So we had that big snowstorm. We were going to do the walk. We were going to get out there, and we're going to do the Herb Lab last week, all about this, being outside and harvesting. That didn't happen. So now we have changed the discussion for tonight, and we're going to talk about the benefits and the things that come from that. So without further ado, now here are your hosts, Candace Hunter and Sue Sierra Lupe.
I'm Candace Hunter.
And I'm Sue Sierra Lupe. And welcome to Real Herbalism Radio.
I told you I wouldn't forget.
I was waving you off because I was like, oh, that was how I was going to introduce to us. The irony. The irony.
It's fine, children. Go back to your seats.
Well,
the irony of it, though. I mean, we do this great show about how important it is to get out and talk to the plants and all of that. And then we had an herb walk plan, and we were going to record on the herb walk. It was going to be great. And then there was all the snow.
It still turned out great.
Ah, it's all right. It was all right.
Yep. Here we are.
Yep. Here we are in the studio.
Yep.
Not
entertaining,
in the woods, but
with glaciers of snow that are still outside melting.
Yes. Horrible snow.
And ice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some areas of Eugene you can't even get up to. In fact, the post office can't get to them.
Cottage Grove just got their electricity back. Yeah. And then I think like an hour later, they lost it again.
Awesome. Woohoo.
Yeah.
I do have to say that being in town on the same line as like the emergency route, and then we are fairly close to a strip mall. Mm-hmm. And I know that our electric only goes out when the strip mall's electric goes out. Means we rarely actually lose our electricity. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a benefit. I mean, it's at least one of the benefits of being not as much in nature and much more citified is I don't lose my power so easily.
But if you do, are you prepared? Because I know a lot of people were not prepared to go without electricity and water for as long as
we are. We are actually, we would be in trouble because there's the only power of any sort to our house is electric, and there's no place to even put a wood stove. I would have to build onto my house.
You're talking about heat, honey. Right.
Yeah, for heat. Yeah. Uh-huh. And we don't have, we could add a gas line. I know there's natural gas close if I wanted to tap into it.
Blow it. You still
need but exactly, for natural gas, you still need electric to run it. So we would be in trouble.
No, we would be prepared. If we lost power for any stretch of time, that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we know and we know people that did. We know quite a few people.
We know quite a few people that had generators ready to go and just haven't been hooked up in 2 years since the last ice storm.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? We know like at least 2 or 3 people like that.
It's right there. It's on the porch, but it's not hooked up.
Oh no!
Yeah,
so as they're laying in bed shivering, they're thinking about the generator that could be keeping them warm.
Oh crud!
Poor dears.
That's terrible.
I know. Yeah, everything's ready to go. They just haven't moved it and put it in, hooked it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but they got it.
If we lost it, we would be good. We have ours is a turn of the century house, so we had the fireplace and a wood stove in there, and I would just pull. First thing I would do is take care of my chickens.
Yeah.
Make sure the fish is okay. And the cats, they always know where the warm spot is. Then we would heat up the living room. Yeah. I'd pull all my house plants into the living room.
Yeah.
And we just sleep and do everything in the living room.
Right.
Yeah, that is cabin fever after a few days for sure.
Yes.
Right.
that's when Sue eats her young.
Oh, yeah.
But that's surviving.
It's survival. Sure. I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah. We got a shit. Oh, sorry. I promise I wasn't going to swear. We got a lot. We have a ton of food set aside. Yeah. Lots and lots and lots of food.
Yeah. Food wise, we would have been fine. It's really just the heat for us. That's the problem. And we did look seriously at putting in a wood stove at one point, but the cost is so prohibitive for the amount of remodeling we have to do because our house
chimney flue and everything.
And that would only heat up the one room, so it would still be a situation because you don't want your house to get so cold because your pipes will freeze. Right?
Yes,
you don't want to have that stuff happen, so you have to really control that, and that's
like you said. I mean, this area was not built, and then when you get up into the northern climates. The more recently, like houses built after the 90s, the electrical power's all through the ground. So you're less likely to lose it. Yeah. The wires are buried. And then a lot of people have secondary sources for heating, even if it's just a fireplace, which is not awesome, but it is something. So if you do lose power, you can, survive.
I'm surprised how many people here live in the country
and don't
have secondary anything.
Yeah, that one shocks me.
Yeah, there's this nice big brand new home in the country, but they didn't put in extra power. They didn't put in ancillary heat. They didn't do that. I'm like,
and they didn't even bury their power lines.
You're just in the city then? You're basically like have the city grid. So if you're out and you live out here, you're low priority.
Yeah, exactly. You better have wooden dining room chairs to burn.
Yeah, right.
big 55-gallon drum.
Yeah.
But with that whole thing and surviving that, and I know people listening are like, I had the Arctic blast, we have all the snow on the ground. And I understand that, but the difference is that we're not geared for that.
We're not.
That is not our normal here.
Yeah.
And if it's a normal thing, you change to it, like Minnesota. It's normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure,
in Minnesota, this weather would not have kept us. It wouldn't.
The schools wouldn't have closed.
Would not have even delayed anything.
No.
Sure,
You just
because
keep moving on.
you're prepared for that.
Yeah.
You go down to LA, it rains like it does up here for a day, and everybody's freaking out, and running around.
Yeah, so it's just an odd event that happens. I mean, unfortunately, like I said earlier, it's like these odd events seem to be happening more often for us
because of climate change.
So. But that did bring up that good conversation that you guys had about
plants.
Yeah, about what's gonna be in the woods come when it all melts and what's gonna be there. So we will be doing that walk at some point here, and you guys are gonna talk about what's available and the plus side of a big snowfall like this.
Yeah, well, I think myself, I'm looking forward to hopefully gathering some of the poplar or cottonwood buds, because I have balm of Gilead, but I don't have a very big container of it, and I've used up I've used up almost all. It's like down to just barely covering the things that are in there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can just pour more oil in there, but it would be nice to get more.
So what is? I've heard you say that a ton of times. I understand it comes from cottonwood trees. I understand it's the seed pod or those.
It's the bud.
It's the bud. Okay.
So
right.
Black cottonwood is what we have in this area. And I know there are different species of cottonwood around, but here in the winter, those branches, all the poplars do what we colloquially call self-pruning. The weather gets inclement and they'll just turn off the juice to a couple of their branches. And those snap off very quickly, and it saves the larger branches, the ones that would cause trouble. So you just go along and you pick up that branch, and it's got all these sticky, resinous, very fragrant buds. They're the new leaf buds, and you pop those off, and there you go.
Okay, so that's what it is. But and it seems like this really highfalutin name.
Balm of Gilead.
Balm of Gilead.
Right.
So I was like, I'm thinking Gilead, that sounds like something out of King Arthur. So but what do you use it for? Because I'm like, you guys are really excited about this. I'm like,
we are, because it sounds dorky.
It does sound dorky.
It sounds biblical is what it sounds.
And
because
it is.
Biblical.
It is
biblical.
There's another plant that has similar properties that grows in the Mediterranean area that's actually a balm of Gilead tree. Right. But this one, it's kind of a convergent evolution thing, where these cottonwoods have the same properties as that one in the Mediterranean areas. Very, very, very resinous. Bees in this area will collect the resin from those black cottonwoods, and they turn it into propolis on their hive. It's antiseptic, antimicrobial, antifungal. It'll beat you up in a dark alley. It's hardcore medicine stuff. And it's extremely sticky. You put your finger on it and you can lift the branch just by touching the thing. It's great, great medicine. It's kind of in the deserts, they have Laria, aka chaparral, very sticky, very fragrant, resinous plant. And that's like our version of it here in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. So that's why Candace and I are
excited about it. Yeah.
Because we get to have that. It's great, great medicine.
Yeah.
So we've had a winter storm, and there's branches down all over the place, and we'll be picking it up.
Yep. It's the time. It's the time.
Tis the season.
How long does it take to get, after you pick them and do your thing, how long does it take before you have herbal medicine that you can use?
If you're doing tincture, if I'm doing tincture of balm of Gilead, I use just straight Everclear. What's the other name for it?
Sprinkler, the 190 proof.
Yeah, 190 proof alcohol. And that, man, I like to leave it a couple of months. But then when it's resi, that's my new thing.
When it's real resi.
When it's ready, you open it up and you just get a blast of that smell. It's there, and the color changes. And
I haven't made the tincture yet, because last year I didn't get that much of it, so I just made the oil.
You will this year.
And I'm looking forward to
What kind of oil did you use?
I used grapeseed oil, I like grapeseed oil
That's
because
your thing, yeah.
well, because it absorbs fairly well and it leaves the skin feeling not oily but more
Oh.
dry, so people don't complain about it as much.
Okay.
Whereas when you use like the olive oil, people
Mhm.
complain that it's got a greasy feel more often.
It doesn't
Even-
absorb. How about if I have used almond oil
That would be-
before,
yeah.
and that's about as exciting as I have gotten.
Yeah, that would be potentially a good one too. I've had people complain about that a couple of times. I know that Thomas Easley has a really good discussion of the different types of oils and which ones are better for which types of plants based on how resinous they are and that sort of thing. He talked about it in the Art and Science of Herbal Medicine Making, his module. He really gets into talking about there. And I believe he had, if I remember correctly, some information on that in the Modern Herbal Dispensatory, the book.
Oh, right.
That he and Stephen Horn co-wrote.
He did, yeah.
So that would be a good source if you're looking for specifically for like the medicinal reasons or the property extraction reasons for which oils you might want to use.
Mm-hmm.
For me, grapeseed oil is abundant, easy to come by, and relatively inexpensive because you can buy a great big old bottle of that down at the grocery store.
Sure.
Or at the restaurant supply store, even bigger bottle for less per ounce cost.
What's the shelf life on that?
You know, so far the oils I've made with that have not gone bad. I haven't had any problems with them yet. I've got a Douglas fir oil that I made with grapeseed oil. What was that, like 3 or 4 years ago?
Oh, I bet that
And
smells lovely.
It does. It's a lovely, and in fact, I just recently I had someone I know that had a tendon issue in her Achilles tendon. She had a nodule and she was having pain, and there was something, it was an injury, a tendon injury.
Yeah.
And she was just looking for something to help it out. And she asked me if CBD would work, and she has some of that at home. And I said, well, that would probably not hurt it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, if you want to pop by, I'd be happy to put just a quick little blend together for you. And I used the Douglas fir oil and the balm of Gilead and the Solomon seal oil.
Oh.
And it was just a simple blend. And then I added some cooling essential oils. I can't remember offhand. I think I used like camphor probably and
but EOs?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was camphor and what was the other one? Kajaput. Probably Kajaput. Yeah, because they're very cooling, and she was having inflammation issues there. You could feel the heat.
So wait, you put Solomon seal? Say again?
I put it was about the equal proportions of Solomon seal, Douglas fir, and then balm of Gilead.
Balm of Gilead, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't, I just made a little bit, and she said that she felt it start to relax almost immediately. And I suggested she use that alternating with the CBD every few hours, whatever works for her schedule and makes sense. And she's been doing that. She said it's been healing really nicely.
Nice.
So it's still sore, but tendons take a long time.
Yeah, they do.
So she's, I told her, you might expect several months to heal that because that's just normal for tendons, but that should help. And,
yeah.
And she said it is.
Or analgesic, adding clove.
Yeah, I can't remember if I did that. I might have added that. I can't remember. I wrote the formula down at home, and it is a couple weeks ago. This was before the Great Snowstorm.
The Great Snowstorm, 2019. Yeah, that sounds like a during these winter weather episodes, people get muscle injuries. A lot are hip injuries because they fall in the snow, or they're shoveling and they do terrible things to their shoulders or legs or what have you. So it's good to have something like this. If you have a Instapot, it's easier to make tinctures. Yeah. Quick tinctures, because you can stick and I did that this week. Actually, I was making syrups, but I took the water and put the dried herb in there and put it on steam. And within 15-20 minutes, I had at least the water part. Then I added the alcohol, right, and put that in a jar, and
nice.
I was ready. Yeah,
yeah. So, it's amazing how fast it goes when you're using like an Instapot or even the crock pots. They don't. Sure. The crock pot doesn't go quite as fast, but you don't have to mind it.
Right, exactly.
So you just put your stuff in there, put the lid on,
Yeah.
and walk away. And then the next morning it's ready to go. Or
Yeah.
by that night it's ready to go and you finish it off and you're good. Yeah.
And this winter time, because I was stuck inside
Mhm.
quite a bit, and I don't take kindly to that sort of event. So I made a ton of syrup. So I did the Instapot thing. And just as I talked about for making the tincture, took that water that had decocted and was super, I made a catnip that made the whole house smell lovely. And I think my
Nice.
cats went insane because of that. But just took that out, strained it, threw it in on the stove and added some brown rice syrup to it.
Nice.
And just cook that up and there you go.
Nice.
It was ready. And of course, some ascorbic acid in order to keep it from getting too decay. We don't want that. It's an antioxidant. So then I just put that in a plastic container and put it outside.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Back when we lived in Minnesota, the outdoors was our refrigerator for spring and fall and freezer for winter.
Yep.
Like the adjunct, the extra.
Yep. I always used your porch for ancillary storage, especially during the holidays.
Yeah.
Yep. Works
Yeah,
really
it's
well.
pretty cool. So it was also nice because I'd see these patches where they were by trees and sometimes the snow had melted off and I saw a lot of chickweed come up.
Yeah, we had before the snow happened, we had cleavers that were starting to grow. They were about 2 or 3 inches there's like the area. There's several areas. I mean, my yard is filled with cleavers, and I don't mind. I like the cleavers, but there's like by the sidewalk, the beginning area is a little microclimate where it's a little warmer. So they were about probably about 3 inches or so tall before the snow. I'm sure they're probably decimated by the snow right now.
Yeah, but they'll be back up.
They'll be back
that
up.
chickweed that I found, that little patch of it, I nibbled on it and it was crisp and delicious and very flavorful. And I thought, because your skin gets my skin gets really dry in the snow.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was like adding 20 years to my face, and eating chickweed is
it'll help.
It really helps the skin. Like it kind of brings youth back to you, it helps your stomach and lots of other stuff. And then of course cleavers is so good for your lymph nodes. And I know a lot of people, mostly they're thinking about that lymphatic area right under their ears, because ears and sore throat and all that, they can feel that. But lymphs are all over the body. So anytime you're feeling congestion of certain places, lymphs are just a one-way gland. So cleavers are great for it. And it's a lot more palatable than red root.
Yes, it is.
Red root tastes like another swear word to me.
Yeah. Red root is not delicious.
It is not delicious, but cleavers is tasty.
Cleavers is tasty.
You see, Patrick, how I didn't swear?
Yeah, but it has a weird mouthfeel.
Red root?
No, cleavers.
Oh, it does, but not as much as red root.
Oh, that's true. But I wouldn't put red root in my salad.
No.
Anyway.
But cleavers is much more palatable, and it's easy to blend with other things, like chickweed, for example.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get a lot of herbal harvest outside. I spent some time out there, though, shaking the snow off of. We have a line of large laurel trees, the hedge laurel.
Yeah.
Not the edible type, not the bay laurel, but hedge laurel.
Bane of Sue's existence.
I love our hedge laurels. I really love them. They do take some maintenance because you have to keep trimming them back because of where we are. But they do offer our space an awful lot of privacy. Most of the houses in our area are single story, but there is one house that's 2-story. And the person that lives in that house is not a nice person. And that person tried to break into our house once. Well, we were there. She tried to, and she was screaming about child welfare, and it was just
we were
crazy.
Homeschooling Finn, and Finn and I were having an argument in the back, and she was out that day watering her little primrose garden.
She got triggered,
and she got all mad, and she walked over to our house, and she went through the gate, and she opened the door. I knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and
she tried to shove her way into my house. I had to call the police.
What are you doing? It was like this whole thing.
It was traumatic.
And of course, Finn's freaking out.
Yeah, it was traumatic.
He was 7 or 8 at the time.
Yeah, it was traumatic for him.
Yeah, we got rid of the woman, but she's and we found out later that She has some other problems.
Yeah, she has problems.
Sure, sounds like.
So we keep our hedge laurels taller than they probably should be for the size of space that we all have to
I think
share.
they're 20 feet.
We let them grow as
So
long
that's
as
why
they
when it
want to.
snowed, they bent over.
Yeah, so they bent over. And all but one section has recovered. We did have a couple branches that broke, but they'll recover. They'll be fine. And most of them have stood back up. But while I was out there, at one section, they were weighing down the magnolia tree that's right next to them. She's a really young magnolia tree.
Oh,
I mean, she's only been
magnolia.
there. She's been there for like a decade. So she's not, they grow slowly, or at least this one grows slowly. So she was all weighed down. So I wanted to get the laurels off of her. And then I noticed the camellia tree or bush. I don't even know what you call that. It's like the size of the laurels. It holds its own next to the laurels.
Sure does.
But that one was also weighed down, and that one's much more brittle. The laurels are springy, so you can shake those easily. And the camellia was not as much. And I noticed the camellia buds were looking like they were hopeful about opening fairly soon.
Oh, that's so sad.
I felt for them. So I'm out there talking to everybody as I'm doing it. And my son's like, "Oh my God, cave mom."
You're welcome. That's a nice thing to hear. You bet.
It was.
So I have a thought, and we went right by it, and I know this is totally it's about the laurels, but it's not necessarily in our discussion.
Go for it.
But I thought about collecting all the leaves this year, and then using those leaves on areas that I don't want anything to grow in.
Oh, because it's allelopathic.
Right.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Because I'm like, we have all these weeds that pop
That's
up
smart.
everywhere, and I'm like, well, we could just munch all this stuff up and throw this stuff down.
You bet.
Yeah.
And nothing would grow there.
I've done that with the black walnut leaves before.
Yeah.
I make
that's a
that
smart
into
idea.
paths because it's so allelopathic.
Yeah, that's a
because
good idea.
We have these areas that we don't really want to control or monitor, and we don't want them to overgrow necessarily. But maybe
That's a good idea. Well, I was planning to put a path across the front, where between the goose gate and the front gate or front door. I was planning to turn that into a path, so we can just start putting laurel leaves. Move them that way.
So anyway, that's just my thought.
That's
like,
a good
idea.
Hey, wouldn't that be a natural weed killer?
I like that.
So for listeners that don't know about allelopathic plants, a real quick piece here, there are some plants that they use birth control. And they will, usually they're plants that produce a lot of babies, and they do not want their babies to kill them. So they have compounds within their leaves usually, so there are other things that have been used. They'll drop the leaves around the same time that the babies go running off. And any of those little nuts or baby seeds or whatever that are around the area where they have dropped their leaves, which is near the mother plant, those cannot live because the compounds poison the ground so that new plants won't live under there. So for people that have grass, they are always trying to throw grass seed under these, like the walnut trees or the laurels, and it just dies. And they're like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, it's the leaves.
You're not doing anything wrong. That's
nature's birth control. Yeah. That's hormones in action, people. And plants have it too. But using it, like you were saying, Patrick, for the benefit of your spot, then, making a path or having a place that you always have weeds and you don't want to have them around the edges of your house or something like that.
Yeah.
That's smart. That's practical herbalism right there.
That sure is.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we could bag it and sell it. That's my entrepreneur in me.
There you go. There you go.
You want to start that business, you go for it.
Well, I think for me, when we get back on the forest bathing a little bit more during the snowstorm, it felt to me like the world kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And I know it didn't, but my world stopped. I couldn't get to work. I couldn't get out of my driveway.
Right.
There were a lot of projects that just
couldn't even really go out walking because it was dangerous because there were enough lines down.
That didn't stop me, but naturally intelligent people.
Well, that's what the like authorities and stuff were saying like it's best to not go out walking about,
or driving or anything,
or driving around because there's power lines down. I mean, more than 13,000 people lost power in the city of Eugene and Springfield, those two cities alone, and that's not even looking at the outlying areas. Yeah. So there were a lot of down lines.
Yes.
But
So
you were out walking anyway.
naturally.
And you're still talking. So clearly, if you stepped on one, it didn't kill you.
No, I haven't. Yes, I lived to tell about it. Don't try this at home, kids. But it was so quiet.
Yeah.
And there weren't cars zooming by.
Yeah.
If there was a car coming, you could hear them a long way away. And they were going slow.
That was one of the nice upsides to it, the lack of traffic.
And when you saw people on day 2, I started to see people going out with their skis.
Yeah,
So
we saw a cross-country skier made us laugh.
Yeah, and it was great. You know, they're going off to work in their skis, or you have people that have the giant boots and trudge. And it was fun. You know, life was moving a lot slower. The park that's a block away from my house was full of giggling children on sleds and throwing snowballs and making snow people. And a friend of mine made a snow sphinx.
Nice.
So cool. Oh my gosh. Nice. But yeah, it was fun to see the world change a bit and to walk around and see the trees and the plants adapt to this behavior. Some of those plants didn't do well at all. Now the big leaf maples in our area, they always lose trunks. Yeah. But you know, they're okay about that. They'll lose giant branches, and like I said about the poplars too. They'll be okay. They'll be okay. Yeah. Some of the plants just split in half and were unfortunately not going to make it. But it was interesting I loved smelling all the smells. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I liked seeing the plants that were resilient and poking up, like the skeleton of the wild carrot. Oh, yeah. Just sticking up there. That I'll put a picture up. But this is one that my husband had taken a picture of, where you could see that the wild carrot had been originally covered with snow, and then it just finally went, ping. So it rose up, and you could see where it was laying. Yeah. Because there's a big crevasse next to it. You go, girl. You know? It was pretty cool. I was very impressed with it. So that just seeing things differently was it was fun. What I noticed is that a lot of the people that we know who were super stressed out finally took the time to relax because they were forced to. Yes. It was kind of like Mother Nature said, no, y'all need to relax. You need to let things go. You need to slow down. And when they did, the result afterwards is, sure, there's a lot of stuff to get done, but people are more like, okay, it'll get done. Right. It'll be okay. And that's a choice that we always have. And I think as herbalists, that's something that we do well when we recognize that there's a plant there. You choose whether you see it as a weed or you see it as a medicine. Right. It's a terrible, terrible weather week and everything is stopping. You choose whether that's going to make you angry or whether that's going to delight you, or whether you're going to use that as a time of peace or what have you. You make that choice. You know, you use your noggin. Yeah. In fact, that's conversation wisdom. Has been going on in our household for some time now. The question of how do you be happy? Right. You know, and I have been saying for a very long time, it is a choice. And yes, it's a choice even when you're facing depression. Right. Not even just the little, I lost my job and I'm depressed, but the big D depression where you've can't get out of bed. Where you're dealing with it and it's chronic and there isn't a source that you can easily identify. You know, that's therapy worthy depression. Right. It's a long time coming. Yeah. That's chronic big D depression. And even then, happiness is a choice. And I've watched many people that I know struggle with it. And the ones who choose happiness over and over are the ones that ultimately do better. Yep. And it's something that I know I've had to struggle with at times. And anxiety also. You can choose to be anxious and you can choose to get into the now and be happy and comfortable and confident. And part of that is for some people, because they have chemical imbalances, they had such destruction in their past that has caused chemical changes in their body. They choose to take medicine, whether herbal or pharmaceutical, in order to get them to that point. Right. And hopefully they have those options available to them. Yes. So, and you need
if you're struggling with something like that, choosing happiness alone is not enough. You may need medicine. You may need therapy. You may need to use a variety of other options, acupuncture, acupressure, stone massages, shamanic work, Reiki. I mean, there's thousands, crystal healing. There's thousands of different ways to help yourself.
Yep.
And those are all things that you can try all of those, but ultimately it's a choice within that's the happiness is what you want to grow. Mm-hmm. And then all those other things can help. Yeah. If you don't choose it at the root, if you don't say that's what I really want, then those other things aren't going to really do much. They're going to maybe help a little, take the edge off, but they're never really going to make you be happy.
And I think we have to be careful to say, we're not saying that everyone can be happy and whatever, be delusional about your, but someone in an abusive relationship. I mean, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying
But that's also, that kind of delusional thinking isn't actually truly happiness either.
Right.
Happiness is a clear feeling within.
Yeah. There are times when you don't have choices available to you, but there are things that every person can do at some point, at least to try to take some kind of control over their lives.
Right. Well, I don't have. When I think about the, what is the name of the fellow that wrote the book about surviving? I believe it was Auschwitz.
Oh, I don't know about that book, but he's mentioned in The Eighth Habit.
Yes. What do you remember his name?
No.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. But he's very famous, and you guys are going to laugh at me when you realize who I'm talking about.
Never
because
laugh at you.
No, it's all right. It's okay. You can. He laughs all the time.
All the time.
Everybody does. It's okay. You're in good company.
It's Cave Woman.
But when you read his name, you'll know who I'm talking about. But he survived. I believe it was Auschwitz, and
he survived the
concentration camps. And, I mean, it was a horrific thing. He was a skeleton when he came out of there. I mean, it wasn't like it was an easy existence.
Of course not. No.
But the one piece that I found most powerful every time I hear of his story is that he chose to be grateful for the gruel that they were serving every day. The once a day, little half a cup or whatever, the minuscule amount of food that was barely food. And every day he made the choice to say, thank you for this food, and to treat it like it was just this amazing gift. Now, most of us look at that and say, oh my God, that's horrible. That's not an amazing gift. But because he made that choice, even in a horrific situation, he had that power. He held his power to make the choice to be happy for this one little thing, even though everything around him was awful.
Yeah.
And he survived.
Yeah.
And he watched other people who didn't make that choice and they didn't survive. The ones who make the choice to be happy, to find that happy or that little piece of gratitude, even in the absolute worst circumstances, are the ones that survive. And in the long run, they're the people that we look to for how do you survive when, I'm down because something happened in my life. I've lost my job, or I've got a heartbreak, or a dearly, beloved family members passed on. How do I survive that? We look to those people that have gone through the serious extremes to help us learn how to survive it and how to thrive afterwards, as he has.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes the survival is just to get through the day.
It is. Sometimes
it's not a guarantee that you're going to live forever.
Sometimes it's just to get through the next hour.
Yeah.
And I have had many days where it's just get through the next hour.
Yep.
But it's always making that choice and remembering the power to be happy is always within you. It's never anywhere else. So, but definitely get help. Get out of bad situations when you can. Look for options to get yourself into a better place.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And talk to your doctor and work with your physicians and your therapists, and,
don't go it alone.
Yeah. Get out in the woods more.
Get out in the woods more. Bless your
Right.
heart. That's very true. That's what we're saying.
I have one tiny, not out in nature, but I did make a connection with a plant even amidst the snow day.
What's that?
I bought seeds from Strictly Medicinal Plants, or Strictly Medicinal Seed Company. And one of the seeds I bought was Spilanthes.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
And I decided that I was going to give Spilanthes a try because I'm hoping to convince everybody that we should have Spilanthes as one of the herbs of the month.
For sure. You got my vote.
Should we do it then for March?
Let's do it.
All right.
It's on.
So that's the March Herb of the Month. I will be writing about that tomorrow.
Good. So Spilanthes, toothache plant, one of my favorite analgesics.
Yes, it's the first time. It's the first time I'm encountering Spilanthes at all because I've never used it in any way. Like never had the medicine, never anything. So I was like, I'll give this a try. What the heck? I put it into my aeroponic garden and it grew. It grew happily, surprisingly. And it had little flowers on it.
Yeah, like little eyeballs.
Yeah, like little eyeballs. And I decided that I would make it small. I chopped off, like there was 3 little branches. All I have is just the one little plant. It had 3 little branches. So I gave them a sharp, hard prune down. So I've got 23 grams of fresh plants. 23 little grams. So I chopped them up. And I put it into my little canning jar, and I did a 1-to-2 ratio with 95% alcohol,
Good.
so 40 milliliters.
Yep.
So it's like this miniature amount. but I was like, I'm going to make this tiny amount of tincture and just see what it's like because I've never done it. And I did. My 23 grams probably became more like 22 and a half because I did eat one of the leaves to see what it tasted like while I was doing it.
And what did you think?
It was a really interesting sensation. I noticed it really got my saliva moving, and there aren't a lot of things that really do that to me. But I was like, wow, that was really interesting. And then the flavor had sort of like this is going to sound weird the way I describe flavors, but it had sort of like a slightly red brick clay sandpaper sort of feel.
Yeah, that's weird. But I think what you're saying is had a mineral-like
I'm not sure because it's the first time I'm encountering it, and the way that I experience flavor is usually strange,
totally
like
valid.
that. But so I'm not sure what it's doing exactly. I mean, I've read about it, but
so look for that one in our Herb of the Month for March 2019. And thank you, existing Herbal Nerd Society members, for helping us out. And we hope that you enjoy reading about Spilanthes as much as we enjoy writing about it.
Yes, it'll be fun.
And as always,
put an herb on it.
The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA. They're not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliated websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamins, supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. Any testimonials, questions, or case studies are based on individual results and do not constitute a guarantee that you will achieve the same results.